Good morning, guys. Got here a video. This is going to be like a comparison and contrast video that I've wanted to do for some time, and I finally got the last piece in. I actually wanted to get one more freight car in, but this video is going to be on buffer cars. So lately in the model railroad market, there has been several buffer cars released. If you don't know what buffer cars are, basically buffer cars are in the modern safety regulations for railroads. Tank cars containing hazardous materials have to be separated in the train from the locomotive by a buffer car, or just a car that is like a box car or some other kind of freight car that's not carrying anything. And what railroads usually do is they have specially repurposed cars that are designed for this. And the three that we're going to be looking at today are models of BNSF railway buffer cars, specifically air slide hoppers. All right, now the interesting thing about the air slide hopper is that this is a hopper that was designed originally to handle bulk dry goods, and especially like powdery bulk dry goods like flour and things like that that don't flow well out of a regular grain hopper. Regular grain hoppers are used for grain, or even like the plastic pellets, which all are, small, dry goods that's bulk that can't get wet, but at the same time they're big enough and smooth enough that they're going to flow through out of the hopper, kind of the same as like marbles would flow out. But with the air slide hoppers, the idea was that they used air to use the draft somehow. I'm not really expert on how this would work, but basically the dry goods would be loaded in the hatches at the top, and then the air slide mechanism in here would help and assist with air to unload the product at the bottom. Now these hoppers aren't really used that much for that purpose anymore, due to new hoppers that have this purpose, like pressure flow hoppers, pressure aid hoppers, and hoppers that basically function the same way, except they have a lot of piping underneath that is used to pressurize the hopper and force the dry goods out and down of the hopper. But they're perfectly good cars, so GATX and BNSF have repurposed a lot of these cars to this buffer service. And the interesting thing about it is that they have on the side buffer service only. See if I can get that. Yep. All right, so these, that's just kind of a little bit of a information on what the buffer cars are used for. But what we're going to do today is we're actually going to compare the level of detail and quality between these three cars, and we're going to show some size comparisons as well. So this one here in the middle, which is already out of the box, this is a Scaletrains Rivet Counter GATC 4566 cubic foot air slide hopper that's been repurposed as a buffer car for BNSF. Here on the left side we have a 4180, which is a slightly smaller. This is actually older, predates this car, but also repurposed air slide hopper, 4180 cubic feet hopper. Same road name, Burlington, Northern Santa Fe. And then here on the right, we have a Tangent. Now the interesting thing about this is the Tangent made also a 4180. So this car and this car are essentially the same car, railroad-wise. So let me get these other two out of the box, and then we'll look at the details. One thing that I did want to mention as I was unboxing these, in the past, this is that like really soft plastic that's used to not damage like the paint or the graphics or the details. And in the past, I know a lot of the cars that I've got, Intermountain, Exact Rail, Athearn Genesis, came with this, nice soft plastic, but they always came with like barely enough plastic to just barely make it around the ends. And that always kind of pissed me off when I would unbox something, because it's so hard to get it back in the box exactly right. One of the things I love about Scaletrains, and actually the Tangent one was the same, is that you have this huge piece of the plastic packaging that is able to wrap literally completely around the car. If you can see here, huge piece that's able to wrap around the car. So there's no problem, guys, if you want to weather this and put some nice graffiti graphics on it, and you can put it back in its box and it'll keep it and protect it. I think that was a really, you know, this stuff can't really cost that much to add. Just give me 60% more plastic in the packaging, and I think it goes a long way to, at least for my satisfaction, of a good model. So, all right, let's look at these details. All right, here we are. First off here, I have the rivet counter, the Scaletrains rivet counter, which is this one here in the back. And I have the tangent car here in the front. I'm going to go ahead and apologize and say that I don't know, you know, the names of every single detail, and I haven't researched hundreds of prototype photographs to be able to pick out, you know, if something is off or whatever. I do know that both of these companies have set themselves apart. Both Scaletrains and Tangent have done a lot of research and have set themselves apart on previous models that I have watched a lot of reviews on, of people that have done their research, and they've really set themselves apart as being companies that pretty much get it right, you know, 99% of the time, as far as those details. So as a disclaimer, I'm saying that, you know, I am not, you know, the person who has looked at 137 photos of prototypes and is going to tell you that, you know, the buffer service only is slightly off center and it was supposed to be off center this way. I'm not there yet, guys. Okay, so this is merely just a up close look for you so that you can see what you're buying if you were to buy one of these cars. The first thing that obviously you're going to notice is that there's an obvious size difference. Length is the same, but you can see this is the 4180 car. This is the 4566. I'm sorry, car. It's a little bit higher. The one thing that I noticed is that it has these white or gray panels, off-white panels on the roof. The rivet counter car, or the operator car, doesn't have those panels. I don't know if that was supposed to be up to the modeler to paint those on. We're gonna go over that in a second. First thing I want to do though is I want to look at just the details up close. So we'll start with the Tangent. For the Tangent, we have here, you can see there's a photo etched metal roof walk. It's actually a little bit loose, but this is like a new old stock. It's new car. I don't know how long it has been sitting, but it has really nice roof detail. The rivet, you can see the rivet detail around each of the panels, and the hinge detail right there is really nice on all those hatches. These cars, these are screamingly better than the old Walthers Gold Line air slide hoppers. And I'm just going to give you guys just a slow pass over so you can see everything that is there. Safety striping, all the graphics, the grab irons, and everything. So here is one of the ends, or the ends with the end with the brake wheel, and it is very nice. Separately applied bar here going across the side. Of course, my finger makes the camera go out of focus. Let's look down on that, and you can see the coupler cut lever, and it also has a brake hose. Really nice. There, there's like a cutout here in the end of the car. The thing is, with these end of the car ends, these are actually hoppers on the inside, so the flat end is like a false end. I don't really know what that little cutout is for, but I just think it's kind of neat that they actually did that detail instead of just making that like a little molded in bump. Still very nice, obviously, on the other side of the car as well. Probably the first difference that you're going to notice between the Tangent and the Scaletrains cars is the color. This is a more, I would say probably a more darker, like original color. And I think that Scaletrains, while they claim that they actually use samples of the real paint in their models. At least that's what they say. True color paint system or whatever they have. I'm not sure how that really works, so don't quote me on that. Although I noticed that, you know, next to each other they don't really look that bad together, and especially considering that this BNSF red, you know, there are different shades of it, and you know, one car to the next, one car could have spent more time, you know, in the north, one car could have spent more time in the south. So it is prototypical to have, you know, a car be lighter than the other, and especially considering the fact that, you know, maybe this one here gives you a little bit more opportunities to fade it in ways that you want, whereas this one here is already faded. It's a really nice color. I actually kind of like this color better. But that's the Tangent car, and here's the end without the brake wheel. Try to get it to come into focus. And then on the bottom we have, you know, obviously all metal wheels, trucks. You have all your brake rigging and the details for the actual air slide mechanism. And there's actually a little bit of graphic on the side. Let's see if I can get that to come into focus. Lift hatch to open valve. Okay. It's kind of cool when you have to zoom in with your video to read something that's that small. It shows that the companies today are really taking these models to a new level. Alright, so now we have the Scaletrains car. And let's go over this car as well, same deal. The one thing that's different about this one is it has the rotating bearing caps on the wheels, which you don't get that with the Tangent car. I really like the color of this car. And it has the same little zoom in on those as well. Yep. Same graphics there. Obviously, guys, you know, if it didn't have it, then, you know, part of that will be you have to ask the question of, did the prototype have it? Now here's that little spot that I was talking about. Now I don't know, this is a different model of hopper, so I don't know if this is actually prototypical, but there's no like actual cutout there. It's just molded in those little bumps or whatever. I'm not sure what that is. It's coming from like the hopper on the inside, but the ladders and the crossbar and all this is all separately applied. Also nice brake hose with silver tip, and a coupler cut lever, coupler. The couplers on the Scaletrains one are metal rust painted couplers, and they look very realistic, but I don't think I really like the operation of them that much. We'll get into that in a second. And again, the other side. Buffer service only, do not load, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. And again, the rotating bearing caps on the wheels, really nice touch on the part of Scaletrains. And you have pretty much the same, okay, here on the top. You have the hatches and the roof walk, which is photo etched metal. We got to keep moving along here, guys. This video is getting long. Same thing on the ends, you know, separately, all separately applied stuff. Looks really nice. And then let's go to the underneath for the Scaletrains car. Same thing, metal wheels, metal axles, nice underbody, really nice underbody detail. Let's compare the two actually, like almost the same. Of course, obviously you have to remember that this is actually two different prototypes that is being modeled, so there's going to be some differences in the two, especially like the locations of the piping and things like that. So, but anyways, that's Scaletrains versus Tangent. The reason I wanted to show these two cars first is that both of these cars are the top of the line as far as detail. These are both, I think 45 and 45, or around the same price range of car. They're designed. These cars are designed for the, the RPM modeler in mind, who is going to look at every detail and even the road number specific details. And that is one thing to point out, is that the cars from Tangent and Scaletrains have road number specific details. Scaletrains made 2 road numbers in the 4566, and I know that one of them, even though it's a buffer car, it doesn't have the buffer service only on the side because that road number didn't have it. And then the Tangent one, the Tangent makes this one, and they also make one that has the Bandit scheme, which is the old gray Santa Fe scheme, and it's patched out to BNSF, and it's a 4180 hopper. So I wanted to get one of those, but I never got around to it. But let's look at that. That's pretty much it for that, guys. I want to say a couple things, just my takeaways. As far as which one's better, that's really hard thing. Both of these cars are absolutely beautiful cars. I don't like the couplers on the Scaletrains. I don't care what they think. Oh, they're not coming for Kadee couplers anytime soon. The Tangent one uses Kadee couplers, and they use the double shelf ones, which, now this is something that I don't know that much about the prototype, guys, but so this one doesn't have double shelf couplers, and I'm kind of the thought that I think it probably should consider this is supposed to be a buffer car coupled to a tank train, but maybe I just don't know about that and those things. Let me try to get a little better shot. The other thing is that the Scaletrains one comes without the trip pin, and that's a big downer for me because I'm just gonna have to replace this coupler. I know that a lot of people think that, okay, send the car without it because that way the RPM modeler doesn't have to cut it off. But there's also a lot of modelers that like to actually run their equipment and need that trip pin on the bottom, even though, yes, it does look unrealistic. It's easier to cut something off than try to solder a trip pin in there, which is practically impossible. A pair of Kadee couplers costs like, what, $3 or $4, which is going to add to the price of this car. So to me, that's at least a point away from the Scaletrains car. And on top of that, these couplers don't couple very well. You can, run this into the tank car and it just bounces off. And the springs are stiff. They don't recenter. The actual knuckle spring is kind of stiff too on both ends. It's actually a lot less stiff now that I've been playing with it. But I don't like the couplers on them. I don't have a coupler height gauge or anything like that to show you the height, but I haven't had any trouble with either of these cars coupling them to any of the other cars that I have. So with that being said, let's get on to, and then the other two things. This one doesn't have the little cutout here, which I don't know if that's a prototype thing or if that's just a Scaletrains just decided to mold it in thing. This one does have the little cutout here. This one, Scaletrains, I like the color better, but I do think this is probably a more original prototypical color. So if you were modeling a hopper that was brand new painted, this one might be better. This one here might be a little bit more in service, ready for weathering type of a color. So there's that. All right, let's look at the Scaletrains Rivet Counter versus the Scaletrains Rivet Counter versus the Scaletrains Operator. All right, guys, now this is where the rubber meets the road right here. All right, there's no panels on the roof. You can look at the details, and really this one here would be the one to compare to the Tangent because it's the same prototypical model of car. Underbody detail is not as intensive, but there is supposedly a detail kit for this, and it doesn't have the rotating bearing caps on the wheels, and there's no grab irons. Now this is why I said this is where the rubber meets the road, okay? a lot of people are saying that we need more economical options for freight cars. And guys, this is it, the Operator Series. Why? It's the it is because, okay, so if I bought let me use an example here. Here is a Walthers Kansas City Southern boxcar. This car cost approximately the same as this Operator car new. Okay, this car looks like crap. The details, it's toy-like. I mean, yes, it's better than a Tyco, but there's like no definition to any of this stuff. And you can see that they put grab irons on here, but that's just molded flat pieces. So if I actually wanted to super detail this car, I have to actually grind these little things off and then drill holes in exactly the right place. And that requires an immense amount of skill to do that. Okay. Then on top of that, this has no underbody detail whatsoever. I might have to replace the trucks. I'll probably have to reweigh the car. And you know, the graphics are okay on it. But I'm just trying to make a point here as far as cost range. Okay, I realize this is a box car and this here is an air slide hopper. But for about 22 bucks, 25 bucks, this car is really not any better than a blue box model. And I used to buy those for $5 each. So let's not even look at this anymore. This, on the other hand, it doesn't have grab irons. Why? Because they already drilled the holes. Like you can see it right there, guys. Holes already drilled in the car, ready for the detail kit. You can buy this car and then buy the detail kit and put those details all in. And this has like some underbody detail already. If this is supposed to have the panels on the top, I don't know. But that's like a flat surface, so that wouldn't be really hard for you to paint that on yourself. It would actually be pretty easy to paint it on yourself, and you can paint those on like before you weather the car, and then after you weather the car, it will look like as good as this car. But seriously, same thing on the ends. Here you can see on the ends, there are no grab irons. There is a separately applied brake wheel. The only thing that I kind of, I just have a thing for the etched metal roofs, guys, but this roof isn't too bad for being a plastic one. Like, if you put a little bit of black dust in there, you wouldn't be able to tell that you couldn't see through it. But really nice graphics. You're going to have to apply the, really nice graphics. But yeah, you're going to have to apply the safety striping and all that yourself. This one doesn't have the little cool little print on down there about loading and unloading the car, but like, heck, look at all the detail. Look at the rivet detail. And this isn't even a rivet counter. That was a pun, guys. You're supposed to catch that stuff. Yeah, look at that detail. That's crazy for a $25 car that has that much detail already. And then on top of that, where it doesn't have detail, the holes are already drilled and ready for you to put get that inexpensive kit and put it in. Again, the last thing that I'm going to knock on this Scaletrains car is, guess what? This piece of crap. Doesn't have a trip pin. It's not a Kadee coupler. I don't like it. It's plastic. Same thing that I would say about a Athearn or Walthers or anything that comes without a Kadee coupler. I automatically have to add $4 to that piece of rolling stock because I got to put a Kadee coupler on it. So, you know, I really don't care that manufacturers, you know, are trying to, you know, monopolize on the coupler market. You know, Exact Rail, BLMA, they all put Kadee couplers on their cars. Now even Atlas, I got some of the Atlas cars that were part of the BLMA run, and they have Kadee couplers on them. They don't have Accumate couplers on them, and they came straight from Atlas. They're in Atlas boxes. So that impressed me about those cars, but I just don't understand. Like, Scaletrains is a brand new company. Why do they need to? Why can't they just put Kadee couplers on their cars? I don't understand that. Why can't they put couplers with trip pins at least, so these things will actually work on a layout. Now I have to replace them. Oh man. Anyways, what do I think about these three cars? In ending, this is probably going to be like a 25-minute video. I think that they're all great cars. I think that it's really cool. I really like the buffer car idea. I think it's really neat. I'm not really sure about this paint color that I'm not as sure. I mean, it's okay. I think it's probably more prototypical of a newly painted car. This one here, maybe they could have put the panels on the roof. That probably would have helped. But honestly, out of the three guys, I'm gonna have to say the winner is the operator car. Why? Not because it has less details, but because of the bang for the buck that you're getting with this car. This car costs half of what these cars cost, considering that I'm gonna have to put Kadee couplers on this one. It costs less than half, and it has almost the same amount of detail on the underbody, plus I can buy the detail kit, upgrade it, and then that gives me a nice fun little project. And guys, thanks for watching. I hope that I know that these cars, there are still plenty of these cars out there. I think Scaletrains actually still has some in stock on the website. But thanks for watching. If you guys want to get any of these cars, now you know what you're buying. You got the best value for the money, probably the most prototypically accurate paint scheme and everything. This car is ready to put on your layout, guys. It comes with a Kadee coupler, and it has every detail that this car has. You just might want to, I don't know, this could be it could be run as like just a new car, or maybe, you know, Washington car. One little interesting last side note is that just because you are running Canadian National, Norfolk Southern, CSX does not mean you cannot run a BNSF buffer car. There are plenty of pics on railpics.com of Canadian National, Norfolk Southern, Florida East Coast trains pulling tanks with BNSF buffer cars. And that is it, guys. Thanks for watching.